With the BBC News at 10, I'm Chris Steers. Some breaking news in the last hour. The Spanish Football Federation President Luis Rubiales has said he will resign. He'd already been suspended after he was kissed the player Jenny Hermoso on the lips at the Women's World Cup final, which he says was not consensual. In a statement, Luis Rubiales said it was evident he could not go back to his position. He's also resigned as a vice president at football's European governing body, UEFA. Rescuers in Morocco are trying to reach some of the areas worst hit by Friday's earthquake, which has now killed more than 2,100 people. The authorities believe thousands more have been injured. The UK government says it's sending 60 specialists to aid search and rescue operations. Alice Morrison is a journalist who lives in the Atlas Mountains, where lots of villages have been destroyed and reduced to rubble.
We're looking at lots of very small villages strung together along the Atlas Mountains, and that's one of the things that's making it so difficult for people. I spoke to a Moroccan gendarme who said he got to a hamlet on Saturday morning, and he said everything was destroyed. When he got there, it was as if the mountain behind the hamlet had literally fallen on the hamlet.
An inmate has been stabbed at Wandsworth prison in southwest London. The man has been taken to hospital and is in a critical condition. Daniel Khalifa has been charged with escaping from the same prison on Wednesday. The 21-year-old former soldier is due to appear at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow. The Manchester United winger Antony has agreed to delay his return to the club while allegations of abuse against him are investigated. The player was withdrawn from Brazil's squad for 2 World Cup qualifying matches following the accusations made by his former girlfriend. Antony has denied any wrongdoing. More than 100 penny farthing riders were in the town of Knutsford in Cheshire today to compete in the Great Race. Competitors flocked to Knutsford from across the world for the unique event which takes place once every 10 years. Organiser Mike Peacock says the event has a strange history.
There's a lot of sort of mystery about this, but as I understand it, the race was first established as a bet between 2 penny farthing riders as to who could ride the longest in the greatest number of laps in a given time. The winner of the trophy today will be the rider who completes the most laps in 3 hours.
And a quick look at the rugby results. Wales are currently beating Fiji. They have now beaten Fiji 32-26. They've won their opening game. Scotland lost their opening match against reigning champions South Africa 18-3. And the 4-time Olympic champion Mo Farah has completed his final competitive race, finishing the Great North Run in just over 63 minutes. Tens of thousands of other runners also took part in the half marathon from Newcastle to South Shields after crossing the line for the final time. Mo appeared emotional and explained what running meant to him. You're up to date with the latest BBC News. It's just coming up to 3 minutes past 10.
How do we are here, you are there, with our life back.
I learnt to ride a penny farthing in Knutsford. I know. Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
I'm Allan Beswick and this is the Allan Beswick Late Night Phone-In. We're here until 1 o'clock in the morning and you're more than welcome to join us on the usual number. And if you've joining us now for the first time, you'll need to know that that number is 0800 218 2255. The rules are, there are very few rules, but I do sometimes make 1 or 2 up as I go along. But I forget them again in 10 minutes, so don't worry about that. And the only way you can take part in the programme is, of course, by phoning that number, 0800 218 2255. You can, of course, listen in any of a variety. I'm not even going to list them, because, as I said earlier, I'm only here till 1 o'clock. But a variety of ways are available for you to just listen. You can even not bother now and listen to it. In fact, you might right this very second be listening to it on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening. Who knows? Who knows what kind of strange life you lead. Anyway, there you are. The team tonight, we've got Ollie taking your calls, Jason doing the buttons, Talent producing, and me talking rubbish from home. And, I mean, that's it, really. I have no more information. Just having a look at the papers, as the big money-grubbing hot air fest comes to its pointless end in India, a piece in the paper quotes local poor people, of which there are thousands, as saying the government's ashamed of us. It's built huge barriers around our slums to hide us away from the international dignitaries. That's absolutely dreadful. But at least they haven't tried to put them on a poisoned barge. Liz Truss. Yeah, I know, I'd forgotten as well, but yeah, no, she's still around. Liz Truss, in a long interview in the Mail today, says she was wrong to get rid of Boris. She rarely speaks to her Chancellor, or then Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, and that she hasn't ruled out a comeback. What a self-deluding clown we managed to get as Prime Minister. We need to find a better system other than that, where a single political party is able to decide who will be Prime Minister. Having said that, I'm not altogether sure what that alternative system would be. Maybe you do, in which case tell us. An alleged terrorist escapee is said to have laughed when he was captured whilst riding a bike along a towpath. He's also said to have told fellow inmates at Wandsworth, "Watch me, I'm going to escape from here." The terrorism charges he faces is planting a fake bomb. As the authorities try to cover their embarrassment at his escape by making out to be an agent of a foreign power, is it possible that it could just be an immature, misguided, silly boy who doesn't understand any of the consequences of his pranks? And in the same nick that he escaped from, 40 prisoners have been moved, 41 if you count the one that's just been stabbed and took to hospital. But presumably the 40 being moved make a little bit more room in Wandsworth, but there's more room or less room elsewhere. So that's a bit of a weird one. England won, formal result. England won, Ukraine won, stalemate. Football, mirroring war. Russian won, Ukraine won, stalemate. Weird. Now that the celebrators, and I'm sticking with sport, now that the celebrators have sobered up and can take time to think about what happened last evening, England beating Argentina against all the odds, 27-10, it's time to stake stock and recognise that our lot seem unable to score tries. Surely the whole point of the game, if they play like yesterday against a disciplined side that doesn't give away penalties like there's no tomorrow, then they're screwed. And chief constables are to be given a say in whether rogue coppers get the sack. Presently, it's a civilian committee of 3, and the Home Secretary proposes that in future it'll be 2 civilians, the 3 will still be there, but it'll be 2 civilians and the chief constable. Just imagine if they sack all the dodgy coppers. Some wonder if the service could survive. At the moment, the worst a chief constable do to an errant rozzer is to say, "I've been a bad, bad boy." Oh, no, it's not by any way related to me. I've always been a cherub, as you well know. 0800 218 2255. Let us begin. I'll do Peter.
Hello, Mr. Cherub. I've actually spoken to Paul Jones on the Spot the Intro competition on BBC Radio 2 when he was sat in for David Hamilton in 1986, would you believe? Small world, eh?
Well, yeah, okay. Very good.
There you go. I got 48 intros right in a row, but he had to help me quite a lot. But a very nice chap. Anyway, you had a chap on yesterday talking about the aqueduct from, I think it's the Lake District of Manchester, and you gave him a really hard time, but actually, factually, he was pretty correct in almost everything he said.
Which was?
So I don't know why you were so hard on the poor guy.
It's my job.
Because
I'm not here to make friends, you know.
Well, I know, but you were hammering him about stuff he was factually correct on. And
that doesn't matter.
He said the aqueduct was about 100 miles, and it is. It's about 96, actually, so that's not too far off, was it?
I didn't challenge that.
And he said it was gravity-fed, which it is. It's about...
I didn't challenge that.
No, you didn't, but you were going on about... it was just below the... no, you said it was all below the surface, which obviously...
No, I didn't.
Didn't you say that? Sorry.
No, I didn't.
What did you say?
First of all, I've no idea. What I do know is that his proposition was he couldn't believe that it could be achieved without a pump. That was his position. And of course, it isn't pumped.
That's right, it isn't. So he was right.
No, he said it couldn't be achieved without a pump.
No, he said he thought it was difficult to be achieved without a pump. But he was in admiration that it was achieved without a pump. He didn't really say that isn't the case. He just said he was surprised.
Well, now that we've sorted out what somebody said last night, and I've already moved on from that, I have a life.
But it is an incredible feat. But, I mean, there must be quite a few, if you think about it, it's 90-odd miles, there must be quite a few obstacles in its way to stop it being gravity-fed. They've had to tunnel it, they've had to put pipelines.
Let's have a look round. Excuse me a second, I'm just having a look around to see if I can find anyone who gives a damn. No, I can't.
Dear. Oh, well. But I'm really fascinated as well by this, because I think it is a major feat of engineering, and it took like 25 to 30 years to build it, didn't it? Back in the 1800s.
I don't know, you're the one that's fascinated by it. I've been bored for about 5 minutes now, but you're the fascinated one, so if you say it took that long, I'm prepared to believe you on account of I don't care if it's right or wrong.
Aren't you interested in great feats of engineering then, no?
I'm not bothered either way, really.
Well, you wouldn't get your water if it hadn't been built, would you? Well, you wouldn't now because you're in Wales, but when you were in Warrington, you probably wouldn't.
Again, I say I don't care. The fact that it arrives, I don't really mind, as long as when I turn the tap on, some fairly clean liquid comes out
of it. Comes from.
Yeah, are you trying to make me care, Peter? Because you're flogging a dead horse.
I'm just trying to educate your listeners. That's all.
Well, they were educated last night, and they've educated just now, and I think they're sick of education. Anything else?
Okay, yeah. You know, at the end of the programme, you say, I've been Beswick, you've been brilliant. Why do you think people have been brilliant when you slag half of them off?
Because they've helped me make a living.
Oh, right. So they're brilliant at making you money. Is that it?
Exactly so.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Bye for now, then.
Thank you for your contribution to my tax bill. How do's your feek?
I'm okay, my dear friend Allan. Tomorrow 9/11, also Sunday, holiday. But I can't forget 9/11 because 9/11 disaster terror attack in United States of America, Twin Towers, in plane attack in Twin Towers. Many people die in this 9/11. I pray for them, God give to heaven. Amen. I have to say something. That 9/11 day, I was domestic flight from Manchester Airport to Channel Island. Our dear Channel Island is a holy, also Great Britain holy, because God chose the Great Britain holy soil, because God chose latest choice. He's going to send message to his favor messenger to Jesus Christ in Great Britain. It is not people choice. Okay, come to the point. That time in 2001, 9/11 is my lab age is 13, 14. That time my head is a atom bomb. If I writing that time to United Nations, they please put atom bomb in terror head and smash this wall, because this kind of attack, terror attack in Twin Tower, is not expectable in this year. And Taliban means student, and we Bengali made it our country by force. All knew that our student number one, and we look after Kalima Tayyib, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, peace be upon you. Thank you.
I'll do, Trevor.
Hi, Alan. I'd like to talk about mental health, if that's all right with you.
Fine by me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's a famous, it's quite well-known debate going on at the moment on Reddit, and it's about the broadcasting industry and people's struggles in that. And I'm not in that industry, but what I'm saying is that the problems they seem to be talking about, like stress and so forth, are well among all industries, and it's just sort of an epidemic at the moment, according to what they say for their industry. And I know from the times I've spent in the post office that it can be very, very difficult when you've got an issue to raise it, especially if they're young. And even if you do raise it, some people say you don't even get a response anyway, so what's the point in doing it? So it's a bit of a bind, really, and I don't know what's the best thing. I know what to do, obviously, just to get on with it. But I mean, it's might be a bit too brutal for some people, I'm not sure. But for me, and as far as I'm concerned, you have to make those social calls and take that break. If you don't take the break, your life's going to be over, isn't it? Not because you'll die on the job, but because time will have rushed by and you'll not have enjoyed life, will you? Just better to just get a bit of fun now while you can. What do you think, Alan?
Well, get a bit of fun while you can isn't really an advice structure for somebody who's got a mental illness. It's like saying to somebody who's broken their leg, go for a jog. You'll be all right.
True.
If you can go for a jog, you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I don't mean to do amend about it. I mean, what I'm saying is that just before it gets too bad, and it has been bad for me in the past, very, very bad. Yeah, looking back on my own experiences, it would have been better if I'd have talked to people at the time, and it would have been better. And also, I had a lot of social help care. So I mean, for me, it's been easier than it is now for a lot of kids. We've got to get houses and run families and whatever. It's very, very difficult. I appreciate that. All I'm saying is that you've got to look after the good things you've got. You must look after the good things. And if you've got something good, nurture it. And, make those social calls if you can.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And talk to people is right. The difficulty is that lots of people struggle when someone close to them, their partner, their friend, or what have you, starts to talk about their mental state, because we're a fairly hidebound group of people, we Brits, and frankly, we're not very good at recognising in our colleagues, our family, our friends, that they are suffering from an illness rather than, they're a bit sad at the minute, or he's a bit loopy. And I'm not suggesting for one moment that you're wrong.
No,
I'm just saying that it's a complicated business, mental health. Or poor mental health, and it's not just a case of I'm sad, so I've got depression. There's a difference between the two, and some of it has no noticeable external cause.
I appreciate that. There's some people. There's a guy at the moment that I know of who's very close to pushing the boat out further than he should go, if you know what I mean, euphemism. But I don't know what that means, to be honest. Well, what I mean is going away for permanently. And to be honest with you, it's
always best
temporary solution.
In conversation, it's always best if you speak words that people understand. So are you saying to me that you know somebody at the moment who you think is contemplating taking his or her own life?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Right. Well, if you say that, then we all know what you're talking about. And
I was just...
What is your plan, if you have one, and there's no reason why you should, of how you might help him? Or her.
All I can do is, he's not a friend that's close to me, it's just someone I'm aware of. I can only tell him that we all rely upon him. He's very important to us, and to me in particular. And it will be a great, great pity and a great, great loss if he should think that he wasn't worthwhile and it wasn't worth his time fighting on. Because, as I say, it's a temporary solution to a permanent problem.
Right, I'm a bit lost by
permanent problem
that expression. Sorry?
Permanent problem. Permanent solution to a temporary problem, that's what I mean.
Right, now it makes a little more sense, Trevor. Yeah. Okay, now we understand. Thank you very much, Trevor, and well done for caring. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. We do talk from time to time about mental health issues, and there isn't an answer that's available on the radio, let's be honest. But what there just might be, is a trigger. Somebody might be listening to this, somebody might be engaged in a conversation in this, talking about a friend of theirs, or indeed about themselves, or what have you, and it just might somehow give a trigger or an easing of their position. There's no guarantees, and we've got nothing to offer but the ear of, 100 people listening to this. I overstate it's probably about 50. How do Sean?
Hello, Alan. How you doing?
Awfully well, thank you.
Yeah, I love it at the start of the show when you say, how are you? Which is really nice. I appreciate that.
Right.
It's basically...
Can we turn down whatever that is in the background, please? I know it's not us, but it's something distracting.
It's basically, I heard about this police incident today, the stabbing at HMP. It's ridiculous because as soon as that prisoner got back and then someone else gets bloody stabbed, it's just nonsense. Like, what's going on? People are going mad. They must be scared of the prisoner.
Well, I think that's a little premature in understanding why a person in a prison might get stabbed, which is, as far as I understand it, it's not the biggest shock in the world that one prisoner stabs another. It's not acceptable, but it's not.
No.
There are all sorts of reasons why, including the fact that they're living in close proximity with people they don't like often.
We meant to keep prisoners safe, and then prisoners just go around stabbing each other. They need to get more guards.
Well, what we probably need is more room for the prisoners. I mean, there are prisoners in some, I don't know the circumstances in Wandsworth, but there are some prisons where cells that were designed a long, long time ago for one person have 3 people living in them 23 hours a day. And I think if I was stuck with somebody 23 hours a day without the ability to just open a window and breathe a breath of fresh air or walk down to the shop and back, I think I'd be less than comfortable with my lot and on the edge of anger, wouldn't you?
I would be, yeah. But,
and that is what they have to endure.
What prisoner got stabbed?
We don't know.
It could have been anyone in there, and I was in hospital getting treatment.
Well, yes, it could. It could be anyone. Any one of the people who are in there.
Yeah. I hope it was that terrorist that got stabbed, that Philly.
Well, there isn't. If the person you're referring to, is not a convicted terrorist, he is only suspected of being so, and I'd rather he got a fair trial than have some criminal stab him.
Yeah.
But then I'm very old-fashioned and believe in human rights. Clearly something beyond you. Yeah. How do George?
Hello, Alan. What I'd like to speak about, Alan, is about the badges. I was looking in the paper and it said that they're going to cull 50,000 badges, and I think it's a shame because I think they're a nice animal. And I can't understand why they're doing all this. And that's the Conservative Party doing this.
Well, I think it's the government doing it, to be honest. It just happens to be the Conservative Party, but they're not doing it because they woke up one night and said, "Ooh, I've had a dream, let's kill some badgers." They have a reason. Now, some people challenge that reason, but it's still a reason. And it is thought that badgers are carrying disease amongst cattle as they wander about at night. and they're carrying diseases and passing them on to cattle. And some farmers are less than pleased about that. Now, others argue that it's not badgers at all, and others say we should be inoculating the cattle, so whatever the badgers are carrying, it doesn't do the cattle any harm. But it's not just a whim of government. Oh, we've not got enough dead black and white things. Let's kill some more.
I see. And also, Alan, I'd like to speak about one that writes my friend was giving me a lift home tonight along the main road, and a fox ran across the road, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. That's good luck." But I can't understand. Right in the bloody in the city, and he run across the road.
Well, it's the only way to get to the other side.
Yeah. But that's all he is, Alan.
Okay. Well, have a good night. Urban foxes, fairly well-known thing now. Years and years ago, BBC Wildlife, based in Bristol, and they did the filming in Bristol, did a whole series on the subject of urban foxes. It was utterly fascinating. How do Lawrence?
Oh.
Hello.
Hello. What I'd like to discuss tonight is with these 40 prisoners getting moved, I have my own beliefs on prisoners, to say it true, and that is that this country, are for the 25 years, or have been for 25 years, serving USA's wishes by this joke thing what they call a war on drugs. And the prisons are full of people that do abuse drugs, don't get me wrong. But the thing is, because they abuse drugs and it's ruining them, should we be punishing them for that, or should we try and get them on proper health care rather than sticking them in the prison? And if we release that most of these people that use drugs that are in prison, yeah, we're like half empty the prisons. I think they reckon it's about 54% of the people in prison are in for drug-related offences. So if you got rid of that 54%, it opens up all them prisons, doesn't it?
But the idea that when you say drugs-related offences, it's not necessarily the case that they're being locked up for actually using the drugs. Quite some of them, I don't know what proportion, I don't have statistics, but quite a lot of them will be locked up because they are trafficking drugs. We don't really want that, do we?
But the thing is, no, we don't want that, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it is a false pretense what they keep on coming out with, this war on drugs. There's no war on drugs. They've been won against drugs.
That's just a sort of headline grabbing statement, but there is, and you make the point. You seem to say there's no war on drugs, and yet our prisons are full of people convicted of drug-related offences. Those two things seem somewhat contradictory. The war on drugs has caused all those people to be arrested, charged, convicted and locked up. So to say it's not there, and yet the prisons are full of people for drugs-related offences seems contradictory, but that's not really important. Who in the drug chain that's from importer to user, who in that list of people, and it's quite a long one apparently, 5 or 6 levels, who in that do you think should go to prison?
Well, it's hard to say. Each case is an individual case, isn't it? And most of the people
cases, but if a person individually, the court decides about the individuality, but if, for example, they're convicted of importing drugs illegally, do you think that individual, if convicted, should be locked up?
Well, they open themselves up to that possibility, don't they, by doing things?
No, I'm not asking what they think. I'm asking what you think. Do you think that person, thus convicted, should be locked up?
I don't know, because I look at the other thing, you see, where the USA did not clap their hands at Iraq, who 700 of their police have been killed by drug traffickers from Afghanistan. Yeah, and they do fight the drugs there against them. What these drug traffickers, they fight them all the time, but the police won't even recognise them.
We've learned something about the United States, but the United States, this may shock you given what you said at the beginning of our conversation, the United States does not set our sentencing policy. We do that in this country, and the objective of the government when it's making laws is to please you and me, the people of the nation. So I ask you again, do you have a view on whether anybody in the drugs trafficking, using line, do you think anybody in that convicted of such an offence should go to prison?
Well, it comes down to which drug they're trafficking, doesn't it? I mean, if they're trafficking
let's
heroin,
say cocaine. Let's say heroin.
Cocaine is a rich man's thing, isn't it? But if let's say
I've no idea what it costs. I bow to your superior knowledge. I ask you again. Let us say they're trafficking what are generally described as hard drugs. Should they go to prison?
Yeah.
It's a yes, no question, really.
Yes, they should.
Yeah, so you're okay with them going to prison. What about if they're using hard?
But I don't see where the benefit is putting
Lawrence,
in prison.
Lawrence, if you're saying we should send them to prison, but you don't see the point of it, then don't send them. You can only have one opinion at the same time. At least I can. You're probably cleverer than me. So the question was, do you think people trafficking hard drugs should go to prison? And you said yes. Do you still mean that, or do you want to pedal back from it again? So
I still mean that. I still mean that.
You still mean that, right. Excellent. So let's try the next one now. Do you think a person who is found using hard drugs should go to prison? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Do you think a person who just has smuggled the drugs in and got caught should go to prison? Yes or no?
On what level? You see, you've got different levels.
Not just more than for his or her personal use.
If it's more than for his own personal use, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So you do think that some of the people in our prisons convicted of drugs offences deserve to be there?
Yeah, but very few.
Well, I don't know the numbers.
You don't get many dealers in a prison. You get what you get in prisons a load of like homeless people that's been using drugs and get arrested for shoplifting and this, that, and the other, and they're all in and out of prison, in and out.
Now we're moving into a different. Now we're moving into a different area. Do you think a person who steals to feed his or her hard drugs habit should go to prison for the theft?
No.
So somebody goes into a shop, nicks 300 quid worth of stuff, runs out, goes around the corner, spends it on heroin or whatever hard drug takes his fancy, and you say, well, that's hard luck, he shouldn't go to prison.
No.
Okay. That's fine. Now we know. Lawrence, thank you. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. What do you think? As are our prisons, which are definitely overcrowded, and there are a lot of people in there who some people shouldn't be there, you know, people who've committed serious driving offences and all sorts of things like that. You know, do you think we sentence too many people. We are told that proportionately we have one of the highest prison populations in the world, and in Europe, again, proportionately, number of people in prison against population were one of the highest in Europe. In other words, we lock up people for offences that in other countries they would not be locked up. And our prisons are jam-packed full. Indeed, our prisons are overcrowded. What do you say? It's what matters. We've heard what Lawrence thinks. What do you think? 0800 218 2255. How do Sam?
Hi, Alan. That statistic you just mentioned, does that mean there's more crime in the UK than per capita than other countries?
I don't know.
Okay. So there's a comet that it's traveling through space, and it's beyond the gravitational pull of Earth. So he's not going to land on Earth. If he was going to land on Earth, it's a mile long, that comet. If he was going to land on Earth, he would do huge damage. And that comet, it's got ice on it, and it's traveling towards the sun. It's possible it will melt when it gets close to the sun. You think
it's possible that being close to the sun would melt ice?
Yeah, it'll melt almost anything, I think.
Being close to the radiator in our back bedroom would melt the ice. I think the sun's a bit hotter than that.
Yeah, so when he reaches a point, he will melt it if he doesn't change direction. Did you read the article about that comet?
No.
If you were going to give a wild guess, where do you think that comet's come from?
I wouldn't give a wild guess. I haven't got enough information to have a guess. I don't have the faintest idea.
There's a space. There's a space in space. There's an area in space. There's loads of comets and loads of asteroids, and they just circulate. Sometimes some of them go out of course, and they can end up anywhere, and they could actually end up near Earth somewhere. I don't think this one's from there. I think this one's, I haven't got a clue, but it's obviously come from somewhere, and it's got ice on it. There could possibly be life. There could possibly be life on a comet. I mean, everything is traveling. Do you think there's life? You do think there's life out there, don't you? Like statistically.
Statistically, it's hard to argue that there is not, but that doesn't mean that I've come to a conclusion that there is. I don't know, and I'm quite comfortable not knowing, but statistically, it's very hard to argue that it is impossible and therefore will not exist, because we are talking about billions of stars, let alone the planets.
Yeah, exactly. So where would you, if you were going to give a wild guess, where do you think it would be, and how, like, from your understanding, from your perspective?
I haven't got any understanding. I just said all I've got is a belief that the statistics, the odds against there being life elsewhere are so great, given the vastness of the universe, that the numbers say there must be. But that doesn't mean I think there is, and therefore it's impossible for me to say where I don't know that something is.
Yeah. I think it would be almost impossible.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a simple question. In my garden, I have a pear tree. Now, here's a question for you. You now know that I've got a pear tree. Now, a while ago, we were talking about comets, about life elsewhere. I don't even know that exists. But you now know that in my garden, there is a pear tree. You know that. So let me ask you a question. On something that you now know to be true, do you think it is the north, the south, the east, or the west side of my garden? Or is it in the middle? Which of those five do you think it is? Now that you know for sure it exists.
It'll be on. How big is your garden?
Doesn't matter. It's still got a north, south, and east, west, and a middle.
Do you have a shed?
It's still got a north, south, east, west, and a middle.
Okay, so I'll on a wild guess, I'll think. Do you have? Is there one tree or is there one or two?
Well, I asked you. I said I have a pear tree. So where is it in my garden? North, south, west, or east?
Yes.
Let me offer you the real answer that you should have given, Sam, and that is you don't know. You don't know where.
Give a wild guess.
You don't know where in my garden is located the pear tree that I have just assured you exists.
Yep.
And yet you ask me where life is in the universe, and I don't even know it's there at all. So how can I be expected to know where it is? I don't do wild guesses. That's yours. I don't have a wild guess.
Okay. So it's. It's rather obvious there's no life in the sun, but so a wild guess, it will be more like, well, you need a lot of different factors for life as we know it, with like photosynthesis and stuff like that. So you could imagine there could be life in the most extreme places, Sam, which is the sun.
Sam, when life began on Earth, I'm not sure that photosynthesis at that point was available. Are you?
Well, when the fungi needed water and some sort of a light from the sun.
Well, we don't know what it was, do we?
Well, it was a plant first. It's most likely plant.
It was most likely a plant. Okay, so that's another one of your wild guesses.
Yeah. So it just. Okay. I mean, it really is all those wild guesses to a certain degree for personal. Yeah. So there could be. I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, they're all wild guesses because obviously there's no proof of life anyway. I'm not some sort of astronomer or scientist, but then, statistically speaking, you can wild guess of some sort of a life elsewhere. Like, I mean, from
I think
like the sun.
I think all life henceforth will come out of an elephant's arse. So there's my wild guess. What's yours like?
Mine will be in the most extreme places inside the sun, some sort of a nuclear fusion, photosynthesis of giant dragon life in the sun, in some sort of a different type of formula that we have no idea what it is.
Right.
And then he sends us some sort of a light and energy. The rest is probably stored in there that we haven't got a clue what it is.
Okay, well, Chester Zoo's open tomorrow. You can go and check out my theory. I'll do Beverly.
Good evening, Alan. How are you?
I'm awfully well, thank you.
Just about this Wandsworth prison, we had Daniel Kiev, is it? I can't say his name. Anyway, he's been arrested now, hasn't he? And also there was a stabbing today in Wandsworth, in the news and that. And then, is it 40 prisoners that have been taken from Wandsworth prison?
Yeah, they've been transferred elsewhere.
Right. Is that because they're a certain category? I don't want to know, just an idea. Is it because it's a certain category?
I don't think they're moving the 40. I don't think they're moving the 40 prisoners because of the category standard of Wandsworth, because they weren't moving them last week when it had exactly the same category.
Do you know how many actual prisoners are in Wandsworth prison? How many does it hold?
Off the top of my head, no.
It's not. No, right.
There's been information all over the news about it. They've talked about little else all week, but what that level is, what the occupancy rate is, I don't off the top of my head know. If I remembered the statistics from the news, I would know, but I don't remember those statistics, regrettably, for this occasion.
Just a while back, I used to do a criminology course, and I was really interested in, you never get to know the mind of the prisoner, never. They can lead you on, they can tell you things, but they never actually tell you what they've actually done, so they don't incriminate themselves, And mine was on Peter Sutcliffe and Ian Brady at the time, and you'd never be able to get into their minds, especially Ian Brady, Like I say, it's just an interest, and I was just interested in how many Wandsworth prison held.
Right, well now I can tell you, because whilst you were speaking I looked it up. It's from a news article, so I'm relying on somebody else's research, but the prison was built to hold 1,000 inmates, and it is said that the Chief Inspector of Prisons is quoted as saying that there could be up to 1,600 prisoners at any time. So that's half as many again.
Yeah, so those 40 spaces, I suppose there'd be 40 more people put in those spaces, would there? I'm just asking out of curiosity.
It depends on why they were moved, and I'm afraid I'm cynical enough to say that there's been a lot of stuff going on about overcrowding at Wandsworth, so there's a nice press release to be had if you move 40 prisoners. Look, says the prisoners, we've listened to you, yes, it's overcrowded, we are moving 40 prisoners out to make it better. What the press release doesn't go on...
They're not making another prison better. Sorry.
that bit is what the press release doesn't say. What we're saying is, you can have a bit more room in here. Hey, you lot over there, up jump. So, they're basically... I remember years ago, a bloke came to our school. I don't know why he was there. I was about 11. And he told a story. And at the end of it, he asked a question. And his question was this. And he said, if a person is lying in bed and their shoulders are cold because the blanket isn't long enough, would it help if they cut 6 inches off the bottom and added it to the top, because then it would go over your shoulders? Well, exactly, but that was the question he asked. And we were only young, and some of the lads at the boys' school, some of the lads sat there for a few seconds, no more than that, going, well, hang on, and I think that's what maybe is going on. They're cutting 6 inches off the bottom, 40 prisoners, and they're shoving them at the top, 40 prisoners. So, it's like, but the press release looks nice, doesn't it? Look at what we're doing. Look at what we're doing.
I do read those, yes. Anyway, thank you for that. Thanks for having me on.
What? Now you're not going as easy as that. You said part of your criminology course was to study. Well, let's just pick one of them, Brady. Now I know you didn't meet him because that's almost impossible. You said no one could get into his mind, but you obviously, I would presume, have had to come to some kind of conclusion for your course. What did you end up thinking?
Well, from all the press reports, you got different ideas. One of them was that he, I don't know if it was Myra, he had his photograph taken on every person he buried, every child he buried. So he was supposed to have photographs of these. Now, they couldn't find one of the boys, and his mum was hoping to find before she passed on. But like I say, there's not enough information for fix it as a jigsaw puzzle. I was just interested in it, and I got sort of, I'm not being big-headed, I got top marks for it. My file also got taken off to the top people to have a look at, But it's just an interest I've had for a while.
I used to know a person many years ago when I was at the Citizen Advice Bureau, and used to know a person who was his how would I describe it? One of his permitted visitors. They weren't a friend, but they were there to study him's probably overstating it, but to get some sense of what he's like. They wouldn't tell me. I asked a number of times, but they wouldn't spill the beans. I hate it when people know stuff and won't tell you, but there was no way we could get them to tell me. No way at all.
Yeah.
Their confidentiality, they said, was greater than my desire for knowledge. Which is fair enough. I tried for about 5 years, never got a peep.
No. Just one more thing, Alan.
Oh, go on, yeah.
Sorry. A suitcase, the Ian Brady suitcase. Are we not allowed to know what was inside? Because once he died, didn't they have a certain period of time where they couldn't open it? And then have they opened it, and have they found anything substantial that could make him guilty?
Well, they already made him. They already made him guilty with the court. But if they were interested in finding anything, it would have been the location of the missing child. And you raise a very good question that I don't know the answer to. They did have we're calling it a suitcase because it was full of his private belongings. And I remember there was considerable anger at the time, saying, why has he got the right to have his private life, encased in that suitcase and not revealed? So whether they've ever got round to opening it or got permission to open it, I don't know, and I should really. Perhaps I'll ring that person I was just talking about, see if they know.
If you find out, let me know.
I will.
Thanks, Alan.
Have a good night, Beverly. 0800, she's already got a top amount. What more does she want? 0800 218 2255. The criminal man I'm talking about, the Bradys of this world and the Peter Sutcliffes and all those sort of serial killers. I know people say just hang them and all that, which is utter nonsense, but if we don't find a way of understanding them, and they need to be alive for that, if we don't find a way of understanding them, we'll never know what to look for earlier in life when they are learning by their life, they're learning their habit, their craft, their disease, whatever it is. And if we know enough about them, we might be able to find something that guides us. Whether we could do anything once guided, I don't know. I remember, now what was her name? I always forget. Mary Bell. Mary Bell murdered a child, went to prison, came out. There was quite a furore when she came out. People thought she should have been at the end of a rope years before. And she came out, she was given a new identity, and she got on with her life blamelessly thereafter. The same with one of the Bulger murderers. One of them was not really ready to be given a new life that he could live blamelessly. The other one seems to have managed to do so. Whether we learnt anything about their crimes or whether we learnt anything retrospective about how they developed, I don't know. But it is interesting. 0800 218 2255. Want to join us, you can. It's getting on for 5 to 11. We're here till 1, and you're very welcome. How do, Glenn?
Hello, hey, boys. I'm 50-year-old. I can't meet a nice girl. I've always liked girls from being good at school. A few weeks ago, my childhood sweetheart came to the supermarket, didn't you? I'm not seen her for 34 years. But when I work at school, I'm allowed to take name at school in Northtown.
I'm sorry?
Am I allowed to say the name of the school went to?
No, it's probably, there's no need to, so... No.
Yeah. It was school in Accrington, and I was bloody a kid on at school, and it's like, does bullying still go on in school, Tom?
I would imagine so, yes.
In November this year, we're having a school reunion. We're all 50-year-old now, and we're going 99. And when I see these people now, you know, I enjoy seeing them. They're the best friends I ever had. But what is on it stuck in my mind what I went through at school. And, you know, they used to laugh at me and intimidate me. And it's going to stay me forever. And why is that? Why can't I forget it? And why, it's over 30 years, why can't I put the past behind me? Why is that on?
I don't have the answer to that. Why you can't?
Yeah, I went to high school from 1984 to 1989. I mean, it's like it's stuck in my brain. When I left school in 1989, I tried to take my own life and burn myself with matches. And I will put on a sarcastic word. I didn't work for 20 years, from 1990 to 2010. Then I got the job at the supermarket. I tried jobs in that past 20 years, but I didn't last 2 minutes. But there again, I do have a girl as a friend. I'm known for like 7 years. And I enjoy seeing her. And she'll live for me, but she's on moving away now. So, like, and what is on it? It's very difficult to meet girls in Accrington. It involves a pub so you can do it, there's nobody there. So, and all the town centre pubs at weekends are all shut up now. And it's like very difficult. You know, I'm 50-year-old now, and it's like time's running out. I know it back, you've told me to I did his life, but that's not worked. And what does that on? You know, I'm not bad looking, but I'm virgin. I've never had sex with a girl. I'm virgin. So why can't I meet one? But I'm not a bad person.
I don't know. I don't know. I have no way of knowing.
Right. See, there's a lot of good-looking girls, you know, I think supermarket, but they just like I don't know me. And it's weird, isn't it? It's very difficult. I don't like going up to them in case they take offence or in case they're married or they're with someone. And it's very difficult, Tom.
I understand that it's difficult. But, I mean, approaching women at the supermarket who are customers would be unacceptable to your employer. But if they're fellow employees, then that's possibly okay. But you have to be prepared to get knocked back.
It's like it's not going to happen, it feels like to me.
Well, that is the case for many.
And then, in 10 years I'll be 60, then it'll be too late, won't it?
10 years after that, well, I don't know when it's too late, I've no idea.
I might not be alive 10 years after that.
Well, you might not be alive tomorrow. Life is like that.
That's what I mean. You don't know when time's up, do you? You can drop the earth of 59, you just drop that.
Exactly.
But like, you know, you only get one chance on this life, and that's it, isn't it? You go, aren't you?
As far as we know, yeah. As far as we know, there's only one go.
And it's like, I'm like 50 now, but I can't do it. There's no actual way of meeting them. I know a lot of people meet girls and get married, children, but in my scenario, it's just not happened. I mean, it looks like it's never going to happen.
Well, come to terms with that. Learn how to live with that.
But there again, I have a girl as a friend, and it's best having a friend and nobody. I go around to house, have a cup of coffee, but it's like, you know, I've told you about this girl before on radio. Do you remember I tell you about her?
I try not to remember things, Glenn. It's probably best if I don't.
But like, you know, it's very sad, isn't it? It's that I'm going to eventually go through life on my own and just drop dead one day.
It's just different. There are lots of people who go through life on their own and have a perfectly fulfilling life. And
I've always liked girls. I've always loved girls. You know, I saw my childhood sweetheart a few weeks ago, And when we were at school, she loved me. She looked a bit like Pam Martin, my blonde hair, brown eyes. And it's like, I've never...
Can I ask you one question, Glenn? Did that girl know that she was your childhood sweetheart, or did you just admire from afar?
Yeah, well, when we were at school, we were good friends and we dated when we were at school, yeah.
Right,
but,
so yes.
But what is, she's been married and she's got kids now. But she just left her fella and she's got met up going with a police officer. So it's not just again with her. It's like.
Well, I wasn't suggesting you should. I wasn't suggesting you should. But, I mean, there's nothing to be said. You know, you look like you're going to end up living the single life, which is not utterly soul-destroying, but you have to find a way of enjoying the life you have, rather than depressing yourself with the life you want. But good to hear from you, Glenn. Good luck. In answer to the question, has the suitcase of Ian Brady been opened yet? The answer to that question is from the Daily Express of the 8th of July this year, which had a headline, Ian Brady's secret suitcase to be opened, finally unlocking Moore's murderers' secrets. Greater Manchester Police await to search Ian Brady's suitcase as they believe it may contain maps and documents revealing where the victim Keith Bennett can be found. Detectives may be on the brink of a breakthrough in the Moore's murders case 60 years after Brady and Hindley claimed their first victim. Greater Manchester Police awaiting the results of a court application to search 2 suitcases belonging to Brady in the hope that the contents could reveal where the victim Keith Bennett, at the age of 12, is buried. That's all I've got. So that's the latest I've seen on it. And I feel sure if they'd found anything, they'd have told us by now, or anything of relevance. But there you are. So the 8th of July this year, the case had still not been opened. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Rick.
Oh, hello, Mr. Beswick. You okay?
Hello.
Hello. Can you actually hear me?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. I was harking back to your call about the. You were talking about space and compass points in space and which direction would life lie and that sort of thing. I think is what the guy was chatting to. I didn't catch his name.
I don't think we're referring to compass points in space. We're talking about compass points in my garden.
Well, this is where it led, you see. I think it was a bit of a metaphor thing that ended up in your garden and up the pear tree and whatnot, around it, certainly. And I was going to suggest you could do, in the style of, like, Monty Python, international hide and seek, you could say somewhere in the world on Google Maps is Allan Beswick's pear tree, and it could be anywhere, it doesn't have to be in your garden, let's face it. And you could do a spot the pear tree on Google Maps or somewhere like that. And you could give a huge prize, because I know your generosity knows no bounds. They must be able to make one Allan Beswick key ring. I don't think you're that bad looking, mate. Just the one, and that'd be good. Someone would flog that on eBay in 20 years and probably retire on it, wouldn't they?
I have no idea.
What do you think?
I think if I could find a way of monetarising it for me instead of giving prizes and other crap, if I could make lots of money out of it, I'd give it a go. But it's not. I can't see a way I could, so I won't be asked.
Well, I don't know. If you cut me in for 15% or something, I could make it happen. I suppose. I do a bit of PR, but only casually and only for charity, really.
No, well, I'm no charity.
No, hell no. That's what I mean. I was saying, like, wouldn't it be fun? But as regards to which way lays life in space, I would think like one side of the planet seems to have an awful lot of stars because it's pointing towards the middle of the solar system. Not the solar system, the big one. And the other way, like from here, there's really just a few outlying neighbours that's living on the edge of Greater Manchester. There's a few villages out there somewhere, But it's like that. You've seen the southern and the northern hemisphere. There's a big difference, isn't there, in the amount of neighbours there. So I would think if I was going to go looking, I'd probably head that way myself. And there's no, I'm sure it was mentioned about north and south and east and west, which way you did. I'm sure you said something about that. I didn't quite catch it word for word.
I did.
but-
When we were discussing, I was using the idea that the gentleman I was speaking with asked me where I thought life would be in the universe. He wanted me to take a wild guess. And I used the example I gave by saying he is asking me to tell him where I think that something I have no idea whether it exists or not might be. So before I want to start locating something, well, you say it does. I have no evidence. What's yours?
Well, I mean, you're alive. I'm alive. I've got mites growing in my eyebrows. You're alive.
We were working on the basis of beyond Earth.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm pretty sure it'd be the same things. I know everyone's hung up on this thought.
Well, you're pretty sure, but I ask you again.
No, but
we
come
can
on.
all be pretty sure. He was asking me to say where in the universe, apart from Earth, I thought life would exist, and I said, I don't know that it does. How can I locate it? His
I can
intellect
tell you where it
wouldn't. Well, yes, I'm sure you can, but that really isn't enough.
Downing Street. There's not much there.
Well, that's marginally humorous, but, you know, it was a good stab, and you're entitled to try.
Yeah. I was. Do you know why? I've been really politicised by lots of music yesterday. It was a Wigan Diggers Festival. That I went up for cheap breakfast. I was going to just mooch around the charity shops and buy yet more ornaments that I don't need and then give them away a few weeks later.
What is the Wigan Diggers Festival? It sounds like something a cross between pie eaters and Australians.
Do you know what? You're not so far off there, mate. Yeah.
No,
it's it was when if you listen to the music of the Levellers, it's all about that, the Battle of What Not Hill and all that. It's about
I
the
do not
commoners
listen to the
reclaiming
music
land.
of the Levellers.
Oh, that's fair enough. You don't have to do that. I was never into them really, but that's how an ex-girlfriend taught me all some of these aspects of it. But I come across it in other. It was like land reclamation from nobles that basically weren't using the land, and the diggers wanted some land to work themselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out what the Wigan Diggers Festival that you seem to say you were attending is.
Well, they're no longer fighting. Well, I suppose some of them are actually arguing for land rights for homeless people and things like that. I've been involved in that myself at different times at Manchester City Hall.
Let me ask you the question again. Is the Wigan Diggers Festival a festival?
Yeah, it was a free. I think I don't know. There was still left tents. Yeah, it was a music festival. There was like a beer tent, arts and crafts, different things.
And
like,
this was during the course of this weekend.
Yeah, I went. Like I said, I went for breakfast yesterday. I ended up staying all day. I was still here at karaoke at 3:00 in the morning. It was very good.
So
met loads of different people.
Where did the Wigan Diggers Festival take place?
I bet you do know Wigan to some degree, don't you? So in the
know it quite
sort of square.
Reasonably.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been there at some point. I'm sure you have. So from the sort of central square on top of the hill there, all the pubs are arranged around and shops, basically. Then there's a little alleyway
on top of the hill.
Well, in the centre of Wigan town centre, if you walk up from the train station, you come up a bit of a rise, and there's bakers, there's benches.
Indeed, from either of the stations, indeed, and you do.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same path. Yeah, and
that's where the festival.
Right,
and that's where the festival took place.
Well, it's tucked off the main drag. It's back behind.
Is that where it took place?
There.
No, let's see if we can get it down to the question. Is that where it took place?
Well,
I'm not asking you for the address. Dear God, you shut up and I'll answer it. The Wigan Diggers Festival took place on the 9th of September, and they're pleased to announce this year's festival lineup. And they'll also tell you that if you go, there's a fair chance of bumping into a prat called Rick. How do Emily?
Oh, hello. How are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
Good. My main topic that I want to talk about is the prison overcrowding. But in the course of listening to, I can't remember which caller now. I got so confused listening to the caller just been on. I kind of forgot which one it was. But it was, it was like you said about, you gave an example of like Brady and Sutcliffe, serial the serial killer character, and you were saying that if we executed them, you don't think that'd be a good idea because we kind of need to study them to learn what to look for. In sort of younger children or what have you, that might give a hint they might need monitoring, or else they might grow up to be serial killer. So I thought that was a good comment that you made there, because I have read about these serial killer characters, and I've read FBI reports and psychology reports about them, and the one thing, apart from being serial killers, the one thing they all seem to have in common from post-arrest studies and interviews of them is that when they were children, they all started out torturing small animals. And this is all of them, according to this FBI report.
Well,
this is all
there is a problem with that.
Sorry?
Because there is a problem with that. I mean, yes, they quite probably did, but regrettably, quite a lot of children do that.
No, I'm not talking about sort of like worms and things.
No.
No. I do think there's a degree. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't torture small animals. I don't know anybody who did. Oh,
right.
But this does seem to be...
I could give you 20 names from my childhood who did.
Well, I'm just telling you what I've read from the FBI report.
I accept that the commonality is that they tortured small animals.
Yeah, and I think that would be a starter red flag. There obviously would be other red flags that you would have to notice, but that would be a starter. Also, I think the other thing would be if total lack of empathy and some sort of enjoyment from upsetting people or hurting actual other children. I'm not talking about, getting into a fight. I'm literally talking about doing things to them to cause deliberate pain. So anyway, there's some sort of commonalities that seem to be associated with all serial killers from their formative years. So my main topic is the seemingly overcrowding of all of Britain's prisons. That's how it seems to be. It seems that the whole thing about Wandsworth, so it was built for 1,000. There's 1,600 in. So they've moved 40, but aren't there? There's still 560 overcrowded, aren't they? But the thing is that I don't think we need to build new prisons to put people in. I think we need to be looking at actual reasons to be in prison. Now, my thinking about this is the only people who should be in prison are people who are dangers to the community, i.e. other people. So you would have murderers, you would have rapists, you would have paedophiles, you would have armed robbers, you'd have arsonists, and you would have drug dealers. And I believe anybody else should not be in prison because they're not posing an actual physical danger to the body of the community. And we should therefore be looking at when they're arrested for one of these other minor crimes, community, what's it called, community service, something like this, It's like if somebody hasn't paid a fine, they shouldn't go to prison. They should have a custodial sentence. I do remember reading years ago an interview with Kenneth Clarke. This was long after he'd stopped being Home Secretary. And in fact, this is when this had kind of like when he'd left the Commons and he'd gone to House of Lords. And he said that if you released everybody from prison that was in there for what they call a minor offence, you could free up 60% of prison places. And so we don't need to spend millions, billions building more prisons. You know, the whole reason for prison, because most people who go in prison, well, not most people, but an awful lot of people as well who will go into prison for other things, you know, they'll be boarded up in the cell with someone who's in for something far worse than them, and then they come up learning new tricks, and then, you know, but the whole situation is, to me, it makes sense. You've got to protect the community from people who are a danger to the body of the community. Murderers, as I said, rapists, serial rapists, paedophiles, arsonists.
But you miss one of the
Sorry?
Yeah, we got the list earlier. You miss one of the. You miss one of the principal reasons for putting people in prison.
Well, it's not
a nice. Well, if you list all the things you want to say, and then I'll carry on with the rest of my sentence.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, that's very kind. I can't be asked. Have a good night. How do, Edward? Have a good night. How do?
We had a history teacher, and towards the end of term, he, you know, when you've done all the exams, you have like about a week where they just teach you stuff that you probably wouldn't read otherwise. And one of the books this guy read extracts to us from was a book called Beyond Belief by Emlyn Williams. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's about the Moors murderers.
I've read it. Go on.
Have you read it? It's a very disturbing book, isn't it? And for a 14, 15-year-old lad... It's what, sorry?
I don't know about disturbing, but it's certainly not an easy thing to read.
Well, for a 14 to 15-year-old lad to hear it, and as it happens, when I went home, my sister had that book, so I did actually read it, and I was quite traumatised by it, especially as I was of an age at the time those crimes were being committed, and I lived in the area at the time. I've moved to Derbyshire now, but at the time I lived quite close to Ashton-under-Lyne, where some of these murders took place, and I think they lived in, was it on Hattersley?
Yes.
And the house that they lived in has actually been demolished, hasn't it?
Yes.
And there's a gap between the previous house and the other one now. It was the crime, the last crime, well, all the crimes were heinous, but the last one was particularly brutal. And I knew someone actually was on the jury at Chester Assizes for that trial, and he was never the same again. He said he was mentally ill for weeks afterwards because they had to listen to some horrific evidence, didn't they?
They did, yeah. I read a lot of it in the Times law reports. They used to apologise and say this is not for general reading. This is the Times law report.
Well, that book we were talking about a minute ago. That book we were talking a minute ago about. They actually recorded the sound of what they did to these children, and I don't know how my men tolerate
and those
that. That was
the recordings were played in court.
That's right, and that's why my mate had a nervous breakdown, because he had to listen to all that torture. You know, it must have been horrendous. And he recovered to an extent, but he said it had a monstrous effect on him. And I said, well, I read the book. And I read about it, and just reading about it was bad enough, but to actually hear it must have been horrendous. And they never found Keith Bennett, did they? I think did they take Myra Hindley up to the moors much later on to see if she had a feeling she could direct them as to where he was, and I think did Brady not do it well at some point?
I don't remember them taking Hindley, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. But they definitely did take Brady.
I thought they'd taken Hindley as well earlier, and she...
Well, you may be correct. As I said, I don't know.
Yeah. No. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But they never found him, and his mum died never knowing what had quite happened to him, or never recovering the body, and that would have been terrible, absolutely awful.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Winnie because of my job, and I didn't know her. I spoke to Winnie 2 or 3 times over the years, and it was almost impossible to not sort of feel for her. It's ghastly, absolutely ghastly.
And I actually used to live quite close to Saddleworth. I used to walk at Dovestones Reservoir. I never went up to Holland Brown Knoll where they discovered the first few bodies, but I did do the Pennine Way once, and that goes the other side up to Black Hill, and it's a beautiful part of the country, and it seems so horrible that it's tinged with this story, and you'll never forget it for that now, which is a shame. It is a bit bleak though in parts on those moors. There's a lot of peaty gloominess about it, and I got quite a funny feeling when I was up there, just for that stretch on the Pennine Way as well. Whether it's because I'd read the book and part of that was in my brain, I don't know, but I wanted to get off it quite quickly, really.
It's understandable. The trouble is, once you know, then I'm not suggesting you're making it up, but you impart that knowledge into the surroundings that you're then in. Whereas a person came over on holiday from France or from Czechoslovakia or whatever, and walked the Pennine Way, they wouldn't get that sensation because they don't have the prior knowledge.
True, so that's a very good point,
it's all. I nearly said it's all in the mind, but that would have been a ghastly thing to say, but it actually is.
One quick point. A few months ago, Rishi Sunak, they were accusing him of claiming non-dom status. What are the actual rules surrounding non-dom status? Because when I've been abroad, and as soon as I came back from working overseas, I had to start paying income tax immediately. Why doesn't everybody do that?
I think the money that you are entitled to claim I'm not paying tax on is because it is money not earned in this country and not earned by you in this country, and your tax life is not registered in this country, and you're paying tax as in another country. You're saying I'm not domestic here, my domestic is elsewhere, and you pay tax in the elsewhere
don't place. You have to be outside the country for a full tax year to be able to claim your non-dom status? Because that's what the rule like. Originally, I think it was 12 calendar months, but I think now it's the 6th of April one tax year to the 5th of April the next tax year, and after that you have to start paying income tax again. Sorry.
Well, it's about the type of tax you pay. If we're talking about your pay as you earn, it's an entirely different business than if you have money being earned elsewhere. So it's whether it's your money or whether indeed it's your legal entity's money, such as a limited company or such thing.
I'm with you. And he's got money tied up.
If you're saying like I'm normally my home is not the UK because I live in New York, I have a home in New York, I pay my taxes in New York, I do all of those things in New York, and I just happen to come here frequently, kind of thing.
Yeah,
is
a different type of fish, that.
Yeah.
All right. And Nadine Dorris and Matt Hancock, are they allowed to be paid by another company whilst they're being paid to be an MP? Isn't that against the rules, or what are the rules for that?
It's not simple, but a person, a senior politician, by that I mean a minister, I suppose, in normal circumstances, all their businesses and the like have to be kept at arm's length. They can still get the profits from those businesses, but they can't. I don't think it applies to every minister, but they can't get involved in the running of the business. They have to be at arm's length. The Prime Minister could not.
If you're being paid to be, sorry.
It's okay.
If you're being paid to be an MP, whatever the salary is, 60, 80,000 pounds a year, and you're still, and it's not the summer break, surely you have to do that job. How can you do that job if you're in New Zealand?
Well, the rules about our MPs are that they get paid for being an MP, they get allowances to help them with the work of being an MP, but there is no other requirement. The only thing they have to do in order to qualify for the money is take the oath. And you might recall that, I've forgotten which one it was, but one of the provisional IRA leaders was elected to the British Parliament but never took up his post. He never came and swore the oath, so he never got paid.
Jerry Adams, was it? No.
It may well have been. I said I don't remember, and it may have been Jerry Adams,
I think
whoever
I
it was.
vaguely recall it was Jerry Adams, but I might be wrong.
So whoever it was, they didn't come and swear the oath in Parliament at the next Parliament after the election, as they're required to do, so they don't get the payment. But if they do swear, they can then say, right, I'm going to Czechoslovakia, or I'm going to Saudi Arabia. I'm just going to lie on a beach now for 5 years. Keep sending the money, lads, thanks.
But Nadine Dorries was sacked for being on ITV's Jungle programme, and I think Matt Hancock was suspended. Was he actually sacked for that? Or did he resign?
You can't sack an MP. There's nobody in Parliament, not the Prime Minister, anybody who... There's nobody in Parliament, not the Prime Minister or anybody, who can sack an MP. What the Prime Minister can do is, if the person has office, in other words, if they're a minister at whatever level, or if they're just what's called a bag carrier, a secretary, if you like, a private secretary of a minister, they can lose that job, but they still remain an MP. The only way they can be thrown out of Parliament is if the constituents decide that they don't want them anymore, and there's a process to be gone through to get that.
Right. And one last
because
point.
the person's elected as an individual to represent a constituency, and it is the constituency that puts them there, and it's the constituency that takes them away from there. Either at the election or at mid-election term, as it were, during the course. If they've had enough of them, they can, through a process that's actually just been done, but they can, through a process, sack them that way. But nobody in Parliament can.
But one last point, is Boris Johnson able to claim non-dom status because he got rid of Dominic Cummings, so he's a non-dom in that sense, wasn't he?
Oh, very good. That's quite a nice pun. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night. Cheers, Gerard. 0800 218 2255. I don't know, that tickled me. I'll do Albert.
Hello, Alan.
Hiya.
Alan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can also hear your radio. Will you turn it off, please?
Hang on. Just a minute. Right, there we go. It's off now.
Thank you.
Right, now, I want to tell you what happened with electroconvulsive therapy. It's pretty horrifying, but I've had experience of this. Now, and this is not nice. I mean, in a way, it's barbaric, but I had clinical depression. Now, this is supposed to cure it. It does, but what do they do? Well, they line you up in a line, they're all aligned, your heads are all in one line, and then they try to give you a sleeping tablet to make you asleep, so they won't pay the electricity going through your head. It's more than not nice. Well, I mean, sometimes, especially in my case, I didn't go to sleep. And you feel it without any anesthetic. The tablet is supposed to knock you out to sleep so you don't feel the current going through your head. Well, what they do, they bring the trolley in and they can hear it come nearer and nearer and nearer. And then they splash your temples with cold water. And then what they do, they put 2 electrodes on your temples, and then they switch the current in, and they get a few hundred bolts through your brain. Now, it means to forget everything. Now, I've had that without anaesthetic. Now, we tell people this. Now, what they've done, after I'd had that, I've had about 6 times without any anaesthetic, and it knocks you out. You can feel the current going through your head. It makes your whole body convulse. Your bowels open up. All the stuff that's in your body shoots out, and your urine, your bladder, it doesn't burst, but all the urine shoots out. Your body convulses, and they say, relax. We haven't got no option, are there? You're completely black out. Now, they started giving injections. That was easy. It was that easy telling a volunteer for the course. Well, a course is about 6 electric shocks through your head. Now, last time, they started giving injections. Well, it was easy as pie, and I thought, well, crackhead, they'd be volunteer for them do. Now, I've had it without an anesthetic. It's terrible. I mean, it does the job. Well, I came round one day, I couldn't see the front door out at wards. And another day, I didn't know how old I was. I'd just been warm, how old I was. That's what goes on.
Though in ECT, I used to be a psychiatric nurse many, many years ago. Had the experience, not a pleasant one, of attending ECT and being one of the nurses, one of the minor nurses involved in it, and there's no getting away from it. It is utterly barbaric. They give you a muscle relaxant. The muscles in the past, when they did it, before they had muscle relaxants, when it first came about, people would break their own legs by the muscle contraction. The arms and the legs were broken by that. So
never happened to me, that.
No, indeed. Well, that's because in the 70s and onwards, and probably before the 70s, but when I was there in the very, very early 70s, they gave a muscle relaxant to prevent that from happening. It is utterly barbaric, but, and I'm not even sure that they know why, but in some cases it does work. It does its job. And to be honest, some of the major tranquilizer type drugs that they used at the time, they're probably more refined now, but Melaril and Largactil and things like that.
Oh, they don't want to have an all then.
But even those, they're absolutely horrible. I mean, they closed down, or they seemed, from where I was stood as a nurse, they seemed to close down great chunks of a person's personality for the time. But sometimes you have to. It's like I don't know. It's like if you've got a bad leg, then for a while you might use a wheelchair. You slowly but surely stop using the wheelchair and get your leg back into use. And if you can imagine major tranquilizers, ECT and the like as being a wheelchair for the brain, then it works for a lot. Nothing works for everybody and nothing fails on everybody, but it does work for a lot. They don't really know more.
No. Now, Alan, I've been on diazepam. That was the old Valium.
Yeah, indeed. That's the sort of formal name for
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I was on it for about 20 years. 30 milligrams a day.
That's a lot.
Well, the doctor cut me down to 4 milligrams a day. I was taking 2 in the morning, 2 other days, 2 milligrams. And it was hell coming off that lot, but I've done it. Absolutely zero now. Take my 1 milligram at night while I need sleep.
Brilliant.
I didn't know you'd been a nurse.
A long time ago, Albert. Long time.
Yeah, well, a psychiatric nurse. Yeah. Hey, do you live in America at the moment?
No.
No. Well, does this programme go to your home?
I'm at home making the programme.
Yeah, so you're at home now, not in the studio.
I'm at home, yes. I'm in my house in North Wales.
Oh, we didn't know that. We used to hang on, weren't you on Red Rose Radio?
Yeah, when I was on Red Rose Radio, I was in the studios in Preston.
Oh, that's a long time ago. Well, I live in Walton-le-Dale, you know, Preston.
Right.
We met Tom Finney as well. Do you remember Tom Finney?
I do remember Tom Finney, yeah.
Yeah, played for North End. Well, my mum went to Dick Kerr's during war. She hadn't know do. Well, she was on nights building Halifaxes. And, yeah, my dad was in RAF, no man no bit of it. Well, after they finished shift at night, while my mum's going to Dick Kerr's during the day, well, there was blooming German reconnaissance fighter. He were wrecking. He was looking for Dick Kerr's, where they were building Halifax borers. Well, I mean, she said, well, because it's blooming pilot. Well, he was searching for Dick Kerr's. The one was going to work. Hey, you know, if it didn't know on that damn plane, they won't till they get him. Well, it won't have love, will it? I mean, just imagine it getting strapped up, going to work.
Aye, it'll not be pleasant, would it?
No.
What people had to do in all the wars we've had during our times have been horrible, but it's lovely to hear from you, Albert. Good on you. Nice to talk to you. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. We'd be glad for you to do so. We're very, very easily pleased, as you know. But 0800 218 2255. Dead easy. I'll do Ted.
Can you hear me, Alan?
Yes, thank you.
Just to say, you know all these fires that have happened in the world?
Yes.
Well, have you seen loads of butterflies by you?
We have quite a few, yes. It's the kind of time of year for butterflies, but yes.
Well, I was thinking, I've seen loads, like every day there's loads of butterflies, white and orange, with bits of orange in them. I've never seen so many. But I'm thinking, like, all these flies, like the butterflies and the flying creatures, are trying to escape from the area and going to different parts in the world. Do you think that, Alan?
I don't know how they would know where to go. I mean, it's not like you and me. If we want to go on a holiday, we get a map. If you're in Canada and Canada suddenly catches fire, I don't know whether you think, I think I'll fly across the Atlantic and go to England. It'd be cooler there. I don't know how that quite works. I mean, butterflies do, believe it or not, travel the globe. Some of them. Some species actually, like birds, travel to Africa, which is quite a thing for a butterfly, but I don't think they'd think, we're going to run away from this and go somewhere else. I think they'd just go beyond the range of the fire and hope to survive. But I don't know, I'm not a butterfly. Long way from it.
Well, the wind can carry them when they're up in the pretty high up. The wind can carry them.
Yeah, the wind, it can indeed, yeah, it can.
There's the large white and the small white butterflies. Right. And then there's I love butterflies, because that's it. A caterpillar changes into a butterfly, metamorphosis. It changes from one animal to a different animal. Isn't that amazing, that?
Well, it's the same animal, it's just a different part of the life cycle of that animal. Just like when you were in your mother's womb, you were not really at that stage fully humanised, and you grow and you develop, and then when you've developed sufficiently to survive outside the womb, you're born. So it's a process. It's like the chicken and the egg, you know, it's a process.
Do you think that's like reincarnation, like?
No.
It's sort of like, in a way, like, innit? No rebirth, like a new life.
Well, a new life, yes, but reincarnation has to be someone who's dead coming back to life, and That's reincarnation, so no.
All insects do it, don't they?
Do what?
Like metamorphosis. Quite a lot of them.
I don't know whether... I don't know what you mean when you say metamorphosis.
Well, you know, mosquitoes, when they're in the water, they're like little fish, they swim.
Yeah,
and they go to
that's
the top.
That's a stage of their life cycle, yes.
A lot of insects do it like a metamorphosis. It's funny, like
birds start out as eggs.
Yeah, and that's it, Alan. See an egg, the spots on an egg. There's a gland in the female that puts the spots on the egg.
Right. And there was me thinking somebody went round painting them. Good to talk to you, Ted. Have a good night, mate. 0800 218 We got another batch. Get over there where you can. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Just pick up your phone and have your say. How do, William?
Good evening, Mr. Beswick. It's good to hear from you again. It's just you was on about democracy before in the UK.
Were we?
Well, you said at the beginning of the programme, around about 10 o'clock, something to do about democracy in the UK. Like, you know.
I was talking about how we get our Prime Minister. You and me, the electorate. We don't vote for the Prime Minister, we vote for a political party, and that political party, if it wins the election, chooses the Prime Minister.
All right, well, just at the moment, it doesn't seem to matter whether we vote Conservative, Liberal, Dems or Labour, because all of the three leaders want us to go back into the European Union in some constitutional way, without having another referendum on it.
Has any of them said that?
Well, they don't deny it when it's mentioned to them. They keep mentioning that there's some readjustments. The latest one being this Windsor Agreement or something from Boris's oven-ready chicken or something, like, you know.
What do you mean, the Windsor Agreement?
Well, the Windsor Agreement now, which is going through Parliament, apparently, it's supposed to replace Boris's deal with the oven-ready chicken, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I mean, Boris said we have all sorts of things lined up, ready to go, and since the referendum and its result, those all sorts of things that were, to use his and your quotation, his expression, your quotation, were oven ready, have yet to come to pass. And were not oven ready, and many of them are not ready. I mean, we had the other day somebody explaining why we have not yet got a trade deal with India. And the person explaining it said, well, it's taken the European Union, they've been negotiating with India for 10 years and they still haven't got a free trade agreement. And Boris Johnson must have known that when he was telling us that we'd have them all sorted out within weeks because they were oven ready. So, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I mean to say, like, because like all the present three leaders keep going on about how they wish to rejoin the European Union in one way or another.
Well, you see, again, I say, I'm not sure that any of the three leaders, well, the Lib Dems might have done, but the other two, I don't think either of them have said that we want to rejoin the European Union. I don't think they have.
Well, Mr. Sunak's just joined the European space structure race again, hasn't he?
Indeed, and he has, yes, and that is the very first thing. He's rejoined, well, he hasn't, the country has rejoined Horizon, which is a European-wide science funding position, and we've rejoined that because our scientists have been saying we're screwed without it, because there's very little major scientific research done in one location. So, yes, they've rejoined that, but I'm not aware that either of the leaders of the two main parties have said that I want us to rejoin the European Union. I don't think either of them has.
Well, they said they're not at odds to not join a further reunification into the EU rules, they state. You know.
Well, not one of them has said we want to rejoin the European Union.
But they've not denied it.
Well, in order for somebody to be quoted as saying something, they have to say it. If you say to me, have I ever committed a murder, and I don't answer, that doesn't mean I have.
Right. You know, when they done the final Brexit agreement, did Britain sign to have a borderless channel as well in the south of the country?
What do you mean, a borderless channel?
You know, like they had one on the North Sea for Northern Ireland and Ireland goods and what have you. The famous lie by the EU. There was a borderless channel.
Do you mean when you arrive at the airport or the ferry? I'm not sure what you mean.
If you come by airport, you have to show your passport, don't you?
Well, it depends. In our country, yes. But in normal circumstances, if you are a member of the European Union, and we no longer are, of course, you don't have to. If you want to travel from France to Spain, and you're of those nations, you're Spanish or French, you don't have to show anything. In that sense, it's just one place. We never quite got that far. We always, because we're an island, we're able to say, no, we don't want that agreement. It had a strange name, and I can't remember what it is now. Something like the Truncheon Agreement or something silly, but it had a name where borders in that respect didn't matter. And so we've now got the situation, we've always had the situation where our borders did matter. And we said, no, if you want to come here, we can't stop you coming, but you still have to, parade around under our laws rather than just the European laws and all of that. And that's now causing problems because, of course, Ireland and Northern Ireland have always been border-free, but the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland now is a European border, and that's causing some difficulties. And the way they got round that difficulty was to create a special position for Northern Ireland, which has been described by the politicians of Northern Ireland as a border in the sea. It's not that, but that's... Pardon?
A fudge.
Yeah, a fudge. Without a shadow of a doubt, a fudge that pleased nobody.
So it's same as like the fudge we've got in the Channel Sea at the moment, where the French border patrols are escorting the migrants through the channel into the English waters.
Well, if you say so, but that's...
Well, it's not me saying so. It's been on GB News and several other channels that the fishermen have seen. Then they've seen border patrols escorting the migrants through safe waters to avoid the big ships and that. And then once they get into the English waters, they let them on the way, turn back to France.
Well, that's nothing to do with the customs borders, but that's fine. That's how
well, that's the French customs borders, aren't they supposed to be stopping it? Under the £500 million we give to them every year.
The French are given a lot of money to try to stop people leaving northern France in small boats and heading towards the United Kingdom, yes.
Are they fleeing persecution in France?
No.
So if they're not fleeing persecution in France and they're illegal immigrants according to the UK law by coming by boat, why don't they just turn them round in the Southern Sea before they get into English waters?
Well, they can't do it if they're not in English waters, because they're either in French waters or international waters, and they would be in breach of that, because they only have the power to do it in our own waters, and once they get into our waters, they're our responsibility.
Do you think it's like a way of trying to drain the UK's resources by the European Union? Because apparently there's 175,000 migrants in the UK are waiting to be assessed. Now,
let me answer that by getting straight to the point and telling you that France has more asylum seekers than the United Kingdom. Germany has more asylum seekers than the United Kingdom. Italy has more asylum seekers than the United Kingdom. So they have the same problem.
I didn't ask that though, did I? I said we've got 100.
No, you didn't ask that, but I told you anyway. I thought it might help you make your judgments.
Yeah, we've got 175,000 in the UK, and now there could be sleeper migrants for sleeper cells. For all we know,
they could be all sorts, yes.
They could have fought in militia wars in Africa so many years ago. You know, you've currently got a problem.
William, they could also be doctors and nurses and radiographers. And right now, we are very shortly, because of this stupid concrete, we're going to need an awful lot of wheelbarrow pushers so we can sort all that lot out. And we haven't got enough people to push wheelbarrows. What we need in this country is more arms and more legs. And we've got, in your figure, over 100,000 of the buggers doing nothing. Have a good night. I'll do David.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to talk about Jacob Bronowski, but several points have been mentioned that I would like to comment, but it's probably going off that things have been mentioned. But anyway, I'll try and stick to the point why I rang. Dr. Jacob Bronowski, I remember when I was at grammar school, on a Sunday afternoon, the BBC showed the Brains Trust, and along with Margarita Lasky, who became a leading judge, I thought Bronowski was probably the most intelligent man I have heard. And the BBC re-showed recently Parkinson, an interview he made in 1973, 50 years ago. And there were three points that he mentioned that, if you would allow me the space, that are the most relevant today. The first point, Parky asked him, Bronowski, what was the difference between the American society and Britain? And he said the difference was the makeup of American, homogeneous, compared with us. And of course, we can see even more starkly today what's happening in America, the difference between the races. But the difference I found interesting, one of the strands was he reckoned, of course, talking about this country 50 years ago, when, of course, maybe we only had probably 12 million less people. When I was at school, there were 52 million. Now they're nearly 70 million. And as we know, the number of immigrants and so on that have come in. But he reckoned, he made a comparison between the society, and it reminded me the point he made about what it was then and what was in America. I think we now see in this country, and it related to, I found a very interesting article made by a South African in the Daily Herald newspaper. It was a formidable article, and he made a comparison between not very nice comparison between what's happened what's happening in South Africa, the corruption, the fact that electricity is not working, the water is not working, and of course he started making comparisons as we see over in this country. The fact we might have problems with electric, and of course we know from recent outbursts of the trouble our water industries is. That was one of the three strands that this South African made, and it brought forth, a tremendous amount of response to this article, which I all read. And of course, most of the response was about, well, a lot of it was about immigration, the number of people that come over in this country, the fact, and as I say, this disparate that Bronowski recognised in America, it seems is now relevant in this country today. The other point, the second strand, was an interesting one. Parkinson also asked him whether he would comment on a recent, very controversial paper that been printed about the genetic makeup of the different races. And Bronowski said yes, he would publish it because he believed that the difference between the races, that every race has their own importance, that each race has they could add to the society in different ways, which was very interesting. I found it interesting, but comparing what's happened, which reminded the radio program. I listen to the radio a lot, and it was about Greater London, the problem of crime in London, and he gave some statistics I never heard before. He said amongst the lone parents, the single parents in London, only 8% were in the Asian community. There were 28% amongst white population, but the figure amongst the African Americans was, I think, 60-odd%, which is quite in. He didn't make any comment on that, but he pointed out that they've got a problem about that. And of course, related to what this South African Bronowski said, which I found, I think the fourth thing the third thing, the final strand of what's mentioned, that has been mentioned today, you just referred to. We're looking for workers who all these. You pointed out, the right-wing press have pointed that 250,000 people are on the backside doing nothing. And Bronowski made this point 50 years ago. What people want is to have a fulfilling job, and that he said was going to be the problem in the next century, that there won't be enough decent jobs that people wanted to do. He said he was lucky. He worked for the coal board for 5 years. I'd like to know what he did there. And then, of course, he went across to America, and he published a book that found great favour in America, and he was asked to contribute. But the comparison, he said that third point, that what we're looking for in this country, and of course, as you pointed out, all these people, he's looking for a worthwhile job. What do you think about that, Alan?
I think they're looking for. Well, it depends how you distill it, isn't it? He distilled it into those words. They're looking for a worthwhile job. They're looking for a secure-ish finance. Well, it's the same word, but they're looking for a secure financial future, and a worthwhile, fulfilling job is a way of providing that. So he's right in that respect, and many of the people who are claiming asylum in this country are doing so because they're in hope of getting accepted into this country and being given the right to work in this country and live in this country, because they see it as being considerably better than the financial circumstances of where they live. They are economic migrants. My sister was an economic migrant to Australia. We, in the difficult times of the 70s, we had our Wiedersehen pet, where men from Newcastle were in Germany. Economic migrants. America is populated by economic migrants. So it has been going on since man was able to travel, and presumably will carry on beyond now. And I think you refer to him, and the thing that I suspect most people who remember him at all will remember him for will be that series he did on BBC in the 70s called The Ascent of Man, when it was a documentary effectively about the history of humanity, also about science, because that was his sort of backup plan, if you like. And it fascinated. But Michael Parkinson, who died recently, you referred to his interview, and of all the interviews he did, he said that was, if he could only choose one to be remembered by, that was it. He did, yeah. I only know that because it was quoted recently. Because Michael Parkinson died. But an amazing man without a shadow of a doubt. An incredible man.
What this thing, making those comparisons today with the population of this country, the fact that homogenous people, all of it alike inside. You looked what happened in the Second World War. Everybody banded together, and what struck me, and thinking about what he said and what's happening, and we see the number of the disparate communities that we know. Look at the soldier, and of course you were in the army, and I was in the RAF, and watching what's happening in Ukraine, how those people are banded together, amazing people, the strength. And I was speaking to somebody, and I was saying, do you think that the population in this country would, if in the event of conflict, we would band together as much as we did in the Second World War? And I'm looking at the points I just made. I very much doubt that. What do you think, Alan?
I think we would.
You do?
I'm an inveterate optimist. And the thing about warfare is jingoism comes very much to the fore, and we have enough of that in this country already. But jingoism comes, dirty Johnny foreigner is trying to come over here with a gun and take my life, and I'm not having it. And I think they would, and I think some of the most peaceful people you can imagine would almost certainly take up the gun if they had to in those circumstances. And that pleases me and depresses me in equal measure, because it sounds like an immature comparison, but just look at the anger that goes around national sport, and that's just people playing games against foreigners.
That's true.
And that we are, along with most other nations, we are prepared to stand up when the time comes.
You really believe that? Yes. Yes, I wish I had. I wish I had that amount of optimism. It's just to look around, see people, and two things have happened this last week. I was in the post office, and somebody said, "This country is broken." And then I was in the supermarket. Somebody else said the same thing. This country has gone to pot. And so lots of things have happened. And again, thinking about this, how in the event of conflict, God forbid, how it took place, and how adverse it would be, whether we would bind together as we did in the past, in view of this disparate element within our community that has been so since the 50 years that since Bronowski talked about it. But we'll have to see.
Well, let's hope we don't. Much more importantly, let's hope we never find out. But,
you're right.
You say you were in the RAF. If you said that to our current defence minister, say, "Oh, really? What aircraft carrier were you on?"
Yeah.
Did you hear about that the other day? What a clown! He thought.
Yes, I know. Yes, and that's amazing. The new Minister of Defence, the chap who does a review on Channel 4, said he's had 5. He said 5 jobs in a year.
I know.
That. What can you say about that? And then you wonder whether the country's gone to pot when they get somebody in charge of in defence, and as you know, the biggest defence is the procurement. Again, that billions that have been spent, misplaced on wrong tanks and so on. And here's we got a chap who's barely. Well, we can see who gave himself a name Green in another life in the past, which caused some problem before he became a minister. Yes. So, and here he is in this post, hoping to, get the procurement right and the defence. We know you will know what the army chiefs think, the RF chiefs about our capabilities.
The only thing I would challenge you on what you just said, David, wasn't that it was when you said that he hopes to get procurement. No, he hopes to get the Prime Minister's job, David. That's the only hope he's got.
Yes,
that's all any of them want.
Yeah,
but that's what they all want. But David, a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good night. It's getting on for it's nearly 10 past midnight. We're here till 1 o'clock. We're just talking to David. We'll talk to John, to Graeme, to Liam, and to Trevor, and of course you, if you call that number. But in the meantime, Jackie Wilson will lift our spirits higher and higher and higher. We're back in a minute. Back. Hey, good old Jackie. How do John? Hello, John.
Yes, sir.
Good. Excellent. What would you like to talk about?
No, sorry, I got stuck into that song then. It was lovely. It was magic. But nevertheless, there was some more. The gentleman there, he was talking and about, he was in the RAF. Yeah. There was a guy down next door once to me in where I lived there before my dad passed away, and he taught me a lot. He was Can I mention his name?
No.
They're not with us no more anyway, but nevertheless, so was them all. They took took me under the wing, taught me a lot of things about life and, morals and, stuff to be a human being. And it was really nice. And you know what? Without them people, we wouldn't be here no more. Alan, do you know what I mean? And, I wish I could shout out the names. I wish I could do. because him and his wife are like you. You know what I mean? You're both pleasant. You're both lovely. You know what I'm saying? I wish I could shout out the name for them. You know what? It means a lot to me to say the name. But,
well, we don't do people's names, John. But anyway, I'm glad you're pleased at them. I'll do Graeme.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Graeme.
Hello, Alan. I am here. Alan.
Good.
Last night, Alan.
Yes.
Well, at the end of last night's programme, you commented that you'd been watching the England Rugby Union game.
Correct.
And tonight's programme, you commented again that if they ever play again, they won't get anywhere. How could anybody get excited with a game where there's no try scored and they score by so many points that it's very crowd appealing?
Well, I think yesterday's game was... Well, it's the day before's game now, isn't it? But anyway, Saturday...
Well, yeah.
It was a very exciting...
Sorry, Saturday. Yeah.
I thought Saturday's game was a very exciting game, and I was glad that England won against what many people were describing as terrible odds. Everybody was saying they were going to get hammered, and they somehow managed to get it together to win. And I kind of think that the spirit that had been lacking in the past, according to many, was galvanised by getting somebody sent off right near the beginning. So they then realised they all had to do a bit harder, a bit more than they would have done otherwise, perhaps, and that gave them the impetus to work harder. But they still didn't score a try, and that's rather disturbing, because if they play anybody else, then they're going to have some trouble, because a team, the Argentinians, for some reason, the other evening, their discipline went all over the place, which gave the England team the opportunity to score a lot of points by penalties. Also, the opportunity that was created for the kicker to do drop goals is something that won't easily be available again.
That's correct. And I think it's a good job the ill discipline by Argentina won England the game. Now, the other point, that the sending off for the head clash was a 50-50. If you look at it closely, the replays, the Argentinian man goes in and headbutts the Englishman, which is accidental in the game of rugby.
Well,
but they still call it head involvement. You know, attack round the head. Now, if you'd have watched, I don't know if you. Sorry, I'm just going on. If you'd have watched, or you may have watched any of the rugby league programmes shows this week. There's been 3 on. You know, we're getting to a stage where the rugby league game is getting more faster, more try scoring than it's ever been.
But they also, I watched Salford versus Warrington, the second half this afternoon, and the number of high tackles, there were 2 or 3, and they were penalised for it, and they get on with it. They play the game differently. The rugby league, you say it was 50-50, and in the eyes of you and me, who don't, well, in my case, don't know much, except I've played the game for a long time, but
same as me.
In the eyes of you and me, it was 50-50. But the decision by the expert, who gets 8 minutes of every angle possible to look at, that expert, referee and expert, decided, seen it in slow motion, that the England player positioned himself wrongly and prepared himself for what's known as an upright tackle, and had he not done an upright tackle, there wouldn't have been a clash of heads, and that was deemed to be a mistake on his part, which led to a clash of heads, and the mistake was considered to be dangerous, and that's a sending off a red card. And that was the decision. And people will talk about it for years, but the person employed to make that judgment isn't a cheat, as far as I can tell, and made the judgment in the way he or she did.
Yeah. Good comment. Yeah. That's about it. I was just thinking, like, how could so many people get so excited in the crowd and think George Ford, kicked so many goals and that, like, and listening to his father today after the Oldham game where they lost, like, it wasn't too overjoyed at converting all the goals and the penalties and drop kicks and whatever. But then again, that's rugby union for you. I'm still a rugby league man.
Well, I don't suppose even as a rugby league man you want to send the World Cup that we won with a drop goal back, do you? All those. No, the drop goal Kate was still a rugby union man, but he scored one of the winning tries, Billy Wiz. No, I was on about when we won in Australia all those years ago. We won.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. I got the two chords mistaken.
Indeed,
yeah.
as you done.
Yeah. That was the Frankie Myler tour team, wasn't it?
I don't think Frankie Myler was in the rugby union team.
No, sorry, the rugby. I thought you meant the rugby league team when they won that World Cup in Australia. Down the
Hang on a minute. Have the England rugby league team ever won the World Cup in Australia? I don't think they have.
I thought they won it with Frankie Myler's team.
All right.
The year when. What was that when Alan Prescott played with his arm broken? Was that not a World Cup series?
I don't know. You're telling me now. I don't know.
Leave it in abeyance then. I'm sure that was a World Cup series when Alan Prescott broke his arm. Because I remember, because he was a neighbour of mine just before he passed away, and I remember having a good couple of chats to him, like, and I got a few mementos off him and things like that, and telling tales of when he was in Australia and that. But I thought that was a World Cup team. Okay then, matey.
All right, have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Can anybody answer that question for us? I know there are lots of rugby league fans listening. Oh, if there's anyone listening. Has England ever won the Rugby League World Cup in Australia? I can't remember when they did, but it could have been won before I was born, couldn't it? So I wouldn't remember that, and I'm not a statistician. But I'm not awfully sure they ever have, but I hope they have, and if they haven't, I hope they do. 0800, I don't care as long as Australia gets beat. 0800 218 2255. The worst game in the world for me to watch, whatever the sport is New Zealand versus Australia. Rugby league, rugby union particularly, the All Blacks versus the Australians, because the only score I'd be happy with would be a 0-0 draw. 0800 218 2255. How do Liam?
Hiya, Helen, it's Liam.
Hi, what would you like to talk about?
I was watching today about that Antony incident with a woman, and I think it's ridiculous what's actually been said about him.
You'll have to be more specific than that.
He was saying about Antony not playing for United at the moment because he's assaulted a woman for some reason. And
well, we're going to have to wait for the court case for us to get involved in that.
I don't think he's actually done it. I think it's all paper to me.
We're going to have to wait for the court case for that, Liam. I'm sorry, but we are. Have a good night, mate. Sorry. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. We can't judge that here. We don't have the evidence. We don't have the right, and we don't even have the right to talk about it because it is pending. I'll do Trevor.
Good morning, Alan.
So, good morning.
Why doesn't Sherlock Holmes pay income tax?
Hang on. I don't know. Go on.
Because he makes so many brilliant deductions. Thank you.
The other reason might be because he's fictitious, but that was just too brutal. Do go on.
Right. There was quite a lot of talk about classical music last night, and I've come across a piece that I think would particularly appeal to you. I'm talking slightly tongue-in-cheek, it must be said. Apparently, there's recently been a rare performance of the Hunting Symphony by Mozart's dad, Leopold. And what's of particular interest is that the aforesaid Hunting Symphony has special guest dogs in it. The Danish Chamber Orchestra, who performed it, went to great lengths to secure 3 dogs that they need for this piece. They had auditions which considered the quality of the dog's barks and their reaction to having an audience. So I could just see you happily trooping into a concert hall to see a symphony performed with 3 dogs amongst the musicians. So I just thought
the best bit would be if suddenly the conductor stops waving his baton about and gets a plastic bag out of his pocket and steps down and picks up a couple of walnut whips.
Yeah,
I'd enjoy it. Biggest round of applause last night at the Proms.
That'd be worth seeing, wouldn't it? Really?
Oh God, yes.
I like reading the papers, but at weekends they're often what you might call lifestyle features that take up quite a lot of space. Came across one this weekend.
You want to try carrying 8 of the buggers home, but go on.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you almost need a truck, don't you, on some days, really? Anyway, came across one this weekend, 28 ways to, quote, hone your morning routine. And these apparently are simple habits that can kickstart your day. And the 2 examples in the heading were having sex or standing on one leg while brushing your teeth. And I think, who kind of comes up? Well, I think yes, effectively, because they're saying that they had a whole list of them, and those were 2 of them, and you can kind of pick and mix, it would seem, from this list, and you'll start your day in a much better frame of mind. So there we are.
Hang on.
Oh, that was interesting.
Sex is better. That was my electric toothbrush. I just happened to have it on my desk.
Oh, very good. Have you noticed any garden gnomes appearing in your garden, particularly garden gnomes of a Christmas variety?
Not of any kind.
Well, be warned. North Wales police have put out a warning that criminals have been leaving 1 or more gnomes in people's gardens on the basis that if they're collected by the residents, if they're picked up, as it were, they know that there's somebody there. And if they're still there a couple of days later, apparently they assume there isn't anyone, as it were, currently in residence, and it's one of those nasty tricks to find out suitable homes to burgle. So I just thought I'd warn you and any other North Wales residents to watch out for the arrival. Sorry, come.
So, well, no, I'm just thinking if the thing sits there for 3 days, it's kind of a gnome from home.
What do you call a psychic gnome on the run, Alan?
I don't know.
A small, medium, at large.
Oh, a psychic node, small, medium. Yeah, okay, small, medium.
Barely any reaction, which is probably as good as it gets. And finally...
Lack of comprehension was the problem, but go on.
And a bad joke, but anyway. And finally, the Ukraine war is clearly a very serious matter, but I spotted a bizarre story, I don't know if you saw it, that Russia is covering its elite bomber jets with tyres. Apparently, pictures taken show tyres kind of piled up on top of the wings of their elite bombers. And it seems that the idea of this is thwarting a new kind of missile that uses what they call imagery matching algorithm to, as it were, connect with their target. And if the image doesn't look exactly like what they're supposed to be targeting, and in this case, presumably the tyres piled on top of it might cause that, then the missiles are likely to miss their target. So there you are.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
So that's my little potpourri of things for you.
In the Second World War, didn't we have canvas planes?
I have heard this.
All over the
I
place.
believe so.
Yeah. So they'd make a piece of ground flat, and then they'd put all these pretend planes and tanks, and the enemy would waste their time bombing them.
Yeah.
Sort of decoys. So it's a bit like that, isn't it, really?
It is. There is definitely a similarity there. Thank you, Alan.
Have a good night. Presumably these tyres roll away when they're going down the runway. 0800 218 2255. Keep your eyes open for a gnome, and if you see it, put it outside with the milk bottles. How do Morine?
Oh, hello, Alan. I'm talking about Dr. Bronowski. When I got married, it was over 60 years ago now, he had invented a smokeless fuel.
Did he?
Yeah. And I saw that Parkinson thing again, and he did mention he had a job with the coal board, and it was the shape of a threepenny bit. It was a briquette. I think they call it briquette.
Oh, I know those. Yes, I used to burn those years ago. Yeah.
Very, very hard, and they were amazing. You set your fireplace, and then you just lit it, and it just burned, and it stayed in the same shape. And it just burned to nothing. There was hardly any ash, no smoke, and where we used to also use anthracite as well. That was a heavy coal years ago. I mean, it was very expensive then. So whether they still make it, but when he mentioned the working for the coal board, that's what I thought. That's when he invented his smokeless fuel.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was. Because I mean, I obviously did other things, but that reminded me then of what he'd made. It was expensive. I say a bag of that was really expensive. You couldn't.
But it burnt for ages, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
That was the thing. You weren't putting shovelfuls on every night.
Oh no, it wasn't like old coal. Yeah. It wasn't like a shovelful of old coal. Yeah, it was.
It was a pig to light.
Yes.
Wasn't it? It was difficult to get it going. Once you got it going, it was all right. Two of them, and you're done for the night.
Oh yes, yeah. It was long lasting. Yes, you did. And we also had because we didn't have any gas in the lane where we lived. We had a wood burning boiler, and that had to be kept up all the time. You know, you had to keep that going, otherwise you had no heat at all, or no hot water. So that was the job and a half, keeping that going. That lasted about 25 years.
I lived in a house where it wasn't on the gas main, and it had coal-fired central heating, and that was a coal-fired boiler. And you used to fill that once every 2 days, but you had to ash it out and all sorts. God, it was a pile of work.
Oh, I know. I mean, coal wasn't. You know, it was a mucky job, really, wasn't it? Especially when the wind was blowing, you're taking the ash outside.
Yes, yeah. Really posh people had buckets with lids, didn't they? Showing off.
Oh yeah, no, we just had a shovel and the coal bunker.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean,
coal bunker.
I know, a coal bunker. I mean, people they don't know the joys of it, really, do they? Especially when it was wet, coming in wet, tramping all the muck in with you, and then brushing his house. But the wood burning boiler, you had to be, if you didn't have enough wood chopped, you were going to be cold. So
my maternal grandmother lived in a terraced house in Warrington, and they had a small basement, and the coal man used to come, and there was what you might call a manhole in the road outside, or in the footpath outside, and he'd lift that and pour the coal down that.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And it all just tumbled into the the basement, and then you go down and get a shovelful as required. But we used to have a I think it was an off licence rather than a pub next to our school, and the draymen used to come with the big wooden barrels, and they used to put a sack down on the floor stuffed with straw, and they'd roll the barrel off the side of the lorry. It'd bounce onto the sack so that it didn't break, and then they'd open some shutters in the floor, and down there was a gully, and they used to have to roll the barrels of beer down using ropes.
Oh, yeah.
Never quite worked how they did it. It was very clever. It's fascinating.
Manual work then, wasn't it? Really hard labour
Yeah.
then. Do you ever watch a film called Hobson's Choice?
Oh, God. I've watched that 4 or 5 times, and I've seen at least half a dozen versions of it on stage.
Yeah, I always watch
a great
it.
tale.
Charles Lawton when he falls down the cellar.
Yeah. Well, it's a cracking story. It's very good.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Night.
Pleasure. Good on you, Morine. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. It's gone half midnight, so if you want to join us, you better sharpish, because we're here till 1. I'll do Anne. Well, the asthma's bad tonight. Hello, Anne.
Yeah, Alan. Hiya.
Hiya. I've got to ask now, what's that noise in the background?
I don't know. Anyway, Alan, what I talk about is I'm 85 years of age. I live right in the middle of Liverpool. By Liverpool.
And we can't really hear you properly, so I think we need you to turn your radio off.
I haven't got my radio on.
Well, whatever's on in the back. Oh, you have.
Sorry. Yeah, what I want to talk about, I'm 85 years of age.
Okay.
What have you like? Born and reared in the middle of Liverpool, Scotland Road, what have you, I'm a close community, but we've got loads of people waiting for houses, right? And I was walking through the park off Great Ormond Street the other day, and we got a list of houses that our own people need. And then this community is coming in, and we're not racist. Don't get me wrong when I say this, fella. We're not racist. But my father said years and years ago that Enoch Powell's words will come true in years to come. That this country will be run by colour. And I think to myself, and not only me, everybody thinks it's coming true. Because this people is a lovely 4-bedroom house by where I live. And they're giving it to immigrants. Where our own people who've been born and reared here. And they can't get houses. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. And this shitty, whatever his name is, can't pronounce his name properly. He should do something. And I think Charlie should do something about it as well.
Who should?
Prince Charles.
Oh, King Charles.
Yeah, King Charles. Well, okay then.
Right, and I don't want you to use that word again in describing the Prime Minister? If you can't pronounce his name, just say the Prime Minister.
Well, Prime Minister then, yeah.
Okay.
So it's coming through. Enoch Powell's ways are coming through.
Well,
We've
Enoch
got more
Powell,
immigrants here. And they're getting houses where our own kids need houses.
Enoch Powell said that we will have rivers of blood. We haven't got that yet.
We don't want that there, do we?
I know we don't, but it was he that said, that was what he said. There will be rivers
He said
of
in
blood.
years to come, this country will be run by colour.
He didn't.
And
He
He
said
did.
this country will. He said this country will have so many immigrants in it that the people will not stand it, and the rivers, that the streets will be rivers of blood. But have a good night, Anne. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? You can. It's dead easy, and there's still time. It's getting on for 22, so you've got getting on for just over 20 minutes. As I say, the number's 0800 218 2255. The lionesses, the so-called, I suppose we ought to say lionesses, are said to be considering taking strike action if they don't get a decent pay rise in forthcoming talks with the FA. I can see their point. You know, there they are playing the same game as the blokes who are all millionaires, and the lionesses, the female, the women's FA team are not millionaires by any stretch of the imagination. And so they're talking about basically going on strike to get more money. And I'm not sure it's a good idea, even though I agree that perhaps they should get more money. But after decades trying to show that women's football was worth watching and just about to get some kind of public support for them, it would be like a shot in the foot, wouldn't it? They'd be shooting their own foot if they give the impression that they're just as greedy as the self-pitying, self-important tosspots in the men's game. So I think if they went on strike, they would destroy a large part of the hard work they've done to make their game look more credible. But what do I know? It's just a silly game of people kicking a bag of wind about. I'll do Helen.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello there. Hello.
I've been trying to get in touch with you because I've been trying all sorts of numbers here and I'm not getting through to them. You know, because
You should have used the one I read out every 10 seconds, but go on.
Yeah, I've been having a little bit of a bad time anyway. So all I need is for you to, have you got a number for me to get in touch with, please? You know, to talk about things, what's going on. I lost my husband last year. Everything that's gone on. There's a lot of things going on. I need to talk to somebody because I'm not in a good place at the moment. I'm not. So, please, you know, all I need is a number I can get in touch with and speak to them. You know, I've been all right for the last few days and whatever. No, I'm not. I lost my husband last year and everything like that. I had a hip replacement and they damaged all the nerves in my leg. Stuff like that, everything. It's been one of them at the moment, you know, so. And I'm not having a good time at the moment.
There are a whole range of organisations that offer help, where you can
I understand that as well. I've also got some health going on as well, you know, and, because of what happened, you know, with me and with my husband and everything like that. So, yeah, I've got, like, solicitors, but it's like I need to talk to somebody because I'm not in a good place at the moment.
There are quite a few bereavement counselling services, people that understand about.
It's like a bereavement thing as well. Like, you know, I had a hip replacement and they damaged the nerves in the leg and everything like that. And then But what happened worse was that was 5 weeks, and then my husband died. I lost my husband, and it's just been one of them at the moment, and it's knowing you need to talk to somebody.
Well, as I say, there are a number of specialist bereavement counselling services.
I know I've got numbers here, but every time I'm ringing them, there's nothing coming through, they're not answering, or no, this, that and the other, and everything like that. So I thought I'd ring you and just see if you've got any sort of numbers, that I can, because I'm not in a good place at the moment, honestly. And I mean, I'm not in a good place. So it's just one of them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to do any harm or nothing like that, but I'm not in a good place because I know what's happened. My husband, when he died, no, he should still be here. There's a lot going on. So I need to talk to people.
Well, there's an organisation called Cruise, which is CRUSE, and they specialise... Cruise, yeah. They specialise in...
So CRU...
SE.
SE, yes. Thank you.
And they specialise in such things. In your area, judging by your accent, you might want to know about...
Don't get me wrong, but I've really... Tonight has just really been a bad night for me, honestly.
Okay. Well,
and it's stuff like that, and I need to talk to somebody.
You might want to speak with the Liverpool Bereavement Service.
Thank you. Yes, that'd be great.
That's another one. So those are two. Now, it's a bit dodgy to give you numbers because it can be... It depends geographically where they are and all the rest of it. But if you ask at the library or go on to
I don't do nothing. I'm 75 years of age. One of them.
So am I.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That's good. It's but it's not. I've tried everything, and I've just really have.
Well,
when you're having a bad time.
I do, yes.
Honestly, yes, and I'm really having a bad time at the moment, and I've done everything. I've been in touch with other people and everything like that, and they're saying, oh no, you get in touch with the bereavement people and stuff like that, and everything like that, and that's... But tonight, it's just been one of them. It's, when you're really not in a good place.
Well, those two organisations specialise in talking with people and listening to people who have suffered a bereavement and are well versed.
Something like that, obviously, because
well, those are the organisations.
Last year, I was waiting for a hip replacement and stuff like that, and I kept asking for them, to just keep, I kept asking and saying, we do this hip replacement, because my husband had Parkinson's and everything like that, but he wasn't, how can I put it? Ted was great, he was really good, he was ship's captain, we went away to sea from when he was 15, whatever, stuff like that, and he was really good, honestly. And even with Parkinson's, he was really good. Honestly, they put him on patches, and that was good, and everything like that. And then things happened, which I'm not happy about, and that's what I need to talk about. Honestly, yes. Honestly, he's a lovely man. Absolutely brilliant, honestly. He was 83 when he died.
but he should still be here, honestly.
Well, the Liverpool bereavement service opens at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Can you give me a number, please?
It's always difficult for me to give numbers out.
I need to have a number. I need to talk to, they have a bereavement counselling thing, when you've lost somebody. I have spoken to other people as well, don't get me wrong, because I really miss them, honestly. And they gave me another number, and I can't get through to it now. So that's why I'm asking now, for a number that I can get in touch with, to talk to them.
Well, I will say again, it's difficult for me to give numbers out on the radio because people listening...
But there must be numbers there, that you can give me.
Listen to me. Listen to it. Helen, listen to me for just a second.
That's fine.
It's
Sorry,
okay.
I'm listening to you.
No. Just for a second. I don't give numbers out. I don't give numbers out on the...
I'm talking to Allan Beswick here.
You are, yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I love listening to you.
Listen, good. Excellent. Well, just listen for a second. I don't give numbers out. I don't give numbers out on the radio because of all sorts of reasons which are too unimportant to go through. But if, when we finish this conversation in a moment, you keep hold of your telephone, a member of the team will come back to you and will give you a telephone number, which is for the Bereavement Council Service, okay? The Liverpool Bereavement Service. It's dead easy. And they will give you that number rather than me read it out. And you may take it down wrong, and more importantly, somebody might decide to have a bit of fun and ring up and pester the service, and they don't need that. So we'll say good night, but don't put your phone down. I'm going to stop talking to you. I'll move on. But you keep hold of your telephone, and one of the team, one of my colleagues, will come and give you that telephone number, okay?
And thank you for all your help.
It's no problem and good luck with it, Helen. The very best of luck with it. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to go on now. I'll do Ian and Helen. If you keep hold of your phone, someone will give you that telephone number. I'll do Ian.
Hello, bless her. Well, good morning, Alan. Thanks for having me on. I just wanted to say a quick thing about pigeons in the First and Second World Wars in this country, and what a great ally they were for the British Armed Forces, but delivering messages. I'm referring, of course, to carrier pigeons, also known as mail pigeons, M-A-I-L. I just wanted to relate a quick story to you about a platoon of British infantry who were holed up in a barn in the outskirts, in the middle of nowhere this time. And the commanding officer came into them and said to them, "Listen, everybody, we've just received a message via pigeon about our strategic manoeuvres out of here from HQ." And he pointed to one of the young squaddies and he said, "You, so go up the ladder to the pigeon loft, get the message off the pigeon and come straight back down here and relay it to me." He said, "Yes, sir." So he scurries up the ladder to the pigeon loft. He comes back down to the commanding officer. The commanding officer says, "Have you got the message from the pigeon?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What is it?"
Well done. It's an old one, but it's always worth an effort. Good on you, Ian. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, great. Even if you have got a very, very, very old joke to tell. Dear God, how far have we fallen, eh? How far have we fallen? Every time we think we can't fall any lower with the jokes. And yet, we somehow manage it. It's time of night, but, whatever you're doing at that pace, you'll be well knackered. 0800 218 2255 to join us. We don't mind. We have no shame. None that I can spot, anyway. And you're more than welcome to. Yeah, that's how we like it. Dead easy. In the meantime, a shufty at the newspapers for tomorrow morning. The Sun on the front page has got the kiss footy chief, as the Sun describes him, says, "I quit." He's had enough. And then Suella, Home Secretary Suella, is going to ban XL devil dogs. Well, that's been tried before to no great success, but we wish her luck. And this is as a girl, aged 11, was attacked by such a creature. And the Daily Telegraph, intelligence service set to haul in China spies. Hunt raised the alarm on Wandsworth safety. Well, we could have all guessed that. John Lewis boss, we need a royal commission to save the high streets, which is nice. The Independent, Sunak confronts China over spy in Parliament. I bet they're quaking in their boots. I don't know much about clothing. I'm not an expert on clothing, but why does he wear trousers that are too short? He wears them at half mast, and he's a tiny bloke. Well, you can't help that. And, he doesn't like flashing his money about much. So do you think he's just buying children's clothes to save the VAT? It's just a thought. Anyway, The Independent revealed Britain's new policing shame. Shocking new figures show that 75% of officers accused of sex assaults and violence against women stay on the force. Now campaigners demand suspend them all. That's not 75% of officers. That'd be a terrible matter, wouldn't it? But 75% of those thus accused stay on the force. Yeah, different figure. The Daily Mirror, terror on our streets. Finally, the Home Secretary agrees with the Mirror. We need action on danger breeds. Well, will we get it? Will we? If we do, will it be competent? A hostile act in the heart of Parliament, says the Daily Mail. That's about the people accused of spying for China. A new case, interest rate hikes set to end, say the experts, which people with mortgages will be well chuffed about, but people with money in the bank rather less pleased. And a tearful TV legend reveals dementia diagnosis, and that's Alistair Stewart, says the Daily Express. The Guardian, 184,000 cancer cases in the UK this year were preventable, and the Moroccan village where death came in the night. The death toll of that earthquake in Morocco is just stunning, isn't it? It's into the thousands. 3,000 and 4,000 of the figures being counted. It's just awful. And then finally, the Metro, Prime Minister's China spy showdown. That's it. That's what's in your papers tomorrow. And, read them, buy them, read them.
To acknowledge him for all the things he's done.
Thank you, Novak, and congratulations. And as we celebrate 50 years of equal prize money at the U.S. Open, Novak Djokovic, you also win $3 million. To present the check, Ben Walter, CEO of Chase for Business. And now, a tip of the hat to your longevity. At age 36, the oldest man to win this title, we have someone who you played against to present the trophy, and he's been retired for a decade. In honor of Andy Roddick's 20 years ago winning this crown, Andy Roddick, present the trophy.
The 2003 champion hands the trophy